Hey guys, and welcome back to another Star Wars podcast. No breakdown this week. But in case you didn't know, I'm your host, Melissa.
And I'm Matt. And sadly, we don't have anything to review yet, but we still got to keep the content coming for people.
We do.
That doesn't mean there's no Star Wars stuff to talk about.
There is a lot of Star Wars stuff to talk about. In fact, we got a heap of Obi Wan Kenobi content, or I shouldn't say content, or at least like news to discuss. So if you want, I can just like lead the way on that. We can dive straight into the show.
Yeah, let's talk about Obi Wan Kenobi. I feel like they're starting to maybe leak some stuff so that people start getting excited. So that's why we've gotten a plethora of news. But yeah, lead us off.
Okay, before we get into the show, guys, I would just like to remind you, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell on our channel, drop us a comment with your Star Wars opinion because we want to keep you in the conversation. And yeah, let us know what you think of the show. So with that being said, let's get into Obi Wan Kenobi. First things first, everybody wanted to manifest a trailer during the Super Bowl. But alas, the Marvel fans got to eat well, and we got nothing.
No, nothing. But I think everyone freaked out when they saw Ewan McGregor in his, what was it, like an Expedia commercial or something, like some TV.
I was like, oh my God, it's Ewan McGregor. And then it was just like, and then I had a panic attack. I'm like, if he is doing a commercial on Bitcoin or NFTs, I'm going to scream. So...
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit weird too because during that, it's like does he have any other shows or anything he's doing right now? It just felt a little odd, other than like Obi Wan Kenobi. Like it was like, oh, Ewan McGregor, cool.
I felt like that was going to be like a Expedia ad. Now here's your little teaser of Obi Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. You know, I didn't even consider that. The second I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's just doing another ad. This is bogus. But whatever. I mean, honestly, it would have been a bold move for them to do something during the Super Bowl. Just knowing Disney and how they and Star Wars and how they release trailers for stuff, it would have seemed a little off if they did like a trailer this far out from when the release date is.
I suppose that's true, and I guess the other part of it is they probably want all the attention to be on Kenobi because they did release the Multiverse of Madness trailer, and that's a hugely anticipated movie because of the multiverse, and Spider-Man No Way Home opened up the possibilities for those movies. So it's probably Disney being like, we don't want to compete with that either. But yeah, it is really, really weird. I mean, the last time that Star Wars actually had a presence at the Super Bowl was with Solo, I think, at the 2018 Super Bowl, if I'm remembering this correctly. So it's been like 4 years or so. And maybe the marketing tactic has changed, but I do feel a little sad. I feel a little bit robbed because the Marvel fans seem to get all this great content lately, and we're like scrapping for bits here and there wherever we can find them.
Yeah, but I kind of like that, honestly. Like, I like the tension build up between stuff, and I talked about this on one of our breakdown episodes a couple weeks ago. But we talked about the payoffs with. When Luke came in with the Mandalorian, we had to wait a really long time before seeing Luke, like a young Luke again. And that's kind of the fun of it. Like, I don't want content over and over and over again. And there is kind of like a secret rivalry between Marvel fans and Star Wars fans. Personally, I'm not a huge Marvel guy. It's very formulaic to me. It's kind of the same thing over and over again. It's not super compelling to me. And if you like it, that's fine. If everyone else likes it, great. But you get so much of it, it kind of oversaturates a little bit, and it's just not as satisfying to be constantly getting content. It's overwhelming, and it's hard to keep up with. Like, they have all these TV shows of like these niche Marvel characters and stuff, and I'm just like, it doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah, the Marvel fans, take your trailers, whatever, but I'll patiently wait. I'm happy to wait because I know the payoff's going to be great for us. And I mean, what were some of the other? I mean, under the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I'm like, okay, cool. That looks like kind of trippy and fun, but it's just that's it for me. I'm not like
I do agree with you. I mean, there was like a 3-year period where I was like really into Marvel. Like, I wasn't into it, and then I was into it, and then I just fell off a cliff after Endgame came out. And this is not the Marvel podcast, but the last Marvel movie I watched that I was emotionally invested in was Spider-Man No Way Home. But that's also because I just wanted to see if Toby and Andrew were going to be in that movie. Other than that, I really didn't care.
Yeah, but I
like,
mean, Spider-Man's also like a main cool Marvel character. Like Doctor
right.
Strange is like, I don't know, whatever, cool. And like Hawkeye show, you get a Hawkeye show. I'm like, okay, great, awesome, Hawkeye.
It is very, very formulaic. I do agree with you on that. I don't know anybody who actually dislikes Spider-Man, so I think that was my drive towards that. But as far as every other superhero goes, I definitely agree with you. I think it's very much the same, and I'm kind of getting tired of it because
Yeah.
there's no like mystery to it. And I think that's what Star Wars has over Marvel. Is Star Wars is so mysterious, and they like leading you on. They like keeping everything in the dark. But I honestly thought, like, they released that Kenobi poster after the end of Book of Boba Fett, and I thought that was like a yes, you are getting a trailer. We're hyping you up for that, because it felt really random to drop that poster. But then again, it did leak that the release date of Kenobi was May 25th, like 2 weeks prior or a week prior.
Yeah.
And so I bet Disney was like, oh, we have to put something out. Oh my God. Like,
yeah, or it's on purpose. I don't know. Like maybe that is on purpose. Like you never know with these companies and their PR and their marketing. Like it could just be really smart in manipulating us all. But I mean, back to the Super Bowl thing. It's like I wasn't expecting a trailer. I feel like a lot of people were like, "Oh, we're gonna get a trailer." It's like based on what? Who told you that?
I
It'd
was
be
just
nice
like this.
if we got a trailer. Sure, I'm great. But like people are like, "Oh, we should have gotten one." It's like, why? Who told you we were gonna get that? Like, I want that to happen, but I'm not expecting it. I hope when it comes, it's gonna be great. I know there's going to be a trailer at some point because the show's definitely happening. I know the show's happening, so that's how I feel about it. But I think it'll probably come closer to April. I bet it'll be beginning of April or end of March is probably when we'll get a trailer for Kenobi, if I had to guess.
April 1st.
It's not even about Obi-Wan. It's just like a random trailer.
It's just, here's your Jar Jar TV series. That'd actually be really funny if they did that. Yeah, but speaking of Kenobi, we do have quite a few pieces of Kenobi news. The first and foremost, we got to talk about this. John Williams has written the signature theme for Obi Wan Kenobi. We were just talking about this guy last week. What do you think about that? That's so awesome.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because he's done the themes for everyone else. So, and this character's been around since the beginning of Star Wars, since the first movie. So it makes sense that he kind of creates an Obi-Wan theme that's unique to the show. I think it's amazing. I'm really happy about it. I love John Williams, and I think he's not going to disappoint when it comes to this. I'm sure it'll be a very emotional, theme for Obi-Wan. But I think that's awesome, and it's very fitting. If anyone else did it, I'd feel like we were shortchanged a little bit. So we got to squeeze as much out of John Williams as we can.
I was just gonna say, didn't they technically pull him out of retirement to do this?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, he did the sequels, right? So they pulled him out of retirement for that because I don't think he'd done anything. But I mean, it's Star Wars; it's your most iconic thing. You should come back for it, and he did. And I think he did a decent job with the sequels. I think he did about as good of a job as he could have done with those. And I think the Obi-Wan one will be great too. What do you think?
I'm just so stoked because, in my personal opinion, I think the prequels have the strongest Star Wars soundtracks. And they're all over the board. They are dark, they are romantic, they're uplifting, they're scary as heck. Like, let's just talk about Revenge of the Sith for a second. Like, that movie is easily the darkest Star Wars movie ever. Like, I don't think anything else comes close in the movies right now. And everything, I could name like 5 tracks that I listened to over and over and over again, but he put so much emotion and darkness into those, where it's like when you see Anakin's betrayal, you're like, oh my God, like that theme just like hits you like straight through the heart. Or like the love theme between like Anakin and Padme and Attack of the Clones, and then leading into Revenge of the Sith. Or God, what's the name of that soundtrack? Padme's Ruminations.
Yeah, that's my favorite one from Revenge of the Sith is Padme's Ruminations for sure.
So I'm excited to see that John Williams put a similar take on the Obi-Wan theme. Now, I get that it's just a theme, but a theme makes a show. And so I'm just excited to get maybe some of those darker elements to give the show its voice, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm really excited about that. And it's John Williams going back to a prequel era character. And as a huge lover of the prequels, I'm just thrilled beyond belief. But
I think you're totally right, and it does give so much more depth to the story when you have a good score behind it. And we talked about this again on our last episode with John Williams, it being his birthday, and what an impact he had on Star Wars, and then also like E.T., Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, all those other ones. Like it shapes what the movie is. It makes it more memorable. So I think it's going to be a huge impact for this show as well. And I'm stoked. I can't wait. I think it had such a people tend to not appreciate the scores for movies as much as they should, because obviously the film itself, the actors and stuff like that can overshadow it sometimes.
Mhm.
But I am like obsessed with movie soundtracks and
Same.
movie scores, and John Williams is like one of the best to ever do it, if not the best to ever do it. So having him be able to do this and like, have it come full circle from him doing the original Star Wars movies to now the show, it's super, super exciting.
Do you have a favorite track
I
from the
love
Star Wars?
Padme's Ruminations is honestly one of my favorites because I think it ties together the mood of that. If you guys don't know what Padme's Ruminations is, it's when Anakin is in the Jedi council chambers right before he betrays the Jedi. He's trying to decide whether or not to listen to Palpatine or go with the beliefs of the Jedi Order. He doesn't know what to do, so he's really struggling, and he's sitting there, and then Padme's over in her little apartment in Coruscant, and it's that really haunting, like, it almost sounds Middle Eastern, like a haunting vocal theme.
It's moaning a little bit
It
too.
is. It's so good, and because I watched that movie with Beth, my fiance, probably a year ago, something like that. We watched it together. We went through all the Star Wars movies, and like every time I haven't watched them all the way like the prequels all the way through in a while, so we rewatched them, and I was watching the Revenge of the Sith, and that scene in particular really stood out to me because when you're a kid, you don't really get as involved in the story and the politic aspects of it. You want to see the action and the lightsabers and the shooting, and But when you're older, like I appreciate the story so much more, and so I was able to see what they were trying to do with Anakin a lot better in this most recent watch of mine, where I'm really paying attention to everything. And that scene I think sticks out so well, and they did such a nice job of like his internal struggle, and that really highlights that. Another favorite John Williams track of mine would obviously be Cantina Band. I am obsessed with that. I have since I watched the first movie. I'm like, this is amazing. It's like I love it, and you know why I love it so much? It sounds alien. It sounds like something from another planet. He did such a good job. It's just like clarinets and some, woodwinds and then some percussion. But it sounds like something that's from another planet. It sounds like a big band in a weird cantina. And I think that's so cool how he was able to do that with regular instruments that we have.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously another favorite of mine. I know it's kind of like a meme, but it's always been like hilarious to me. Like I remember learning it on the piano when I was a kid because
I
I thought it
remember
was
you
so funny
playing
and
it.
awesome. Yeah. So those are probably my two. Totally different feelings for both of them.
Totally opposite.
But I mean, obviously, all the major ones are great too. Like Binary Sunset, I love that one too.
Yes.
Like that one also really got it. What an emotionally driven track, especially where it is in A New Hope when Luke's looking up. It's like a beautiful shot. And it reminds me of that bit from Family Guy where they do the what's it called, the blue harvest, and he's like, the guy's like, hey, it's John Williams, everybody, and it's like na 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 na. So that's another one that's such a classic, and just really ties the scene together and the emotion, and obviously it's prevalent throughout all the Star Wars movies, but that part in particular is amazing. What about you? What are your favorites?
Obviously, Padme's Ruminations. I love that track. I love the sinisterness behind it. It sounds so ominous and scary, and it just makes you scream internally, "Don't do this! Don't do this! Don't do this!" And
Yeah.
I think like the tension that he's able to build up with that score is really incredible. Another favorite is actually Battle of the Heroes, Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that because honestly, that whole sequence with Anakin versus Obi-Wan, the energy that they are throwing at each other, how they're equally matched because it's master and student, and then the intensity of the music coming in, it's chef's kiss. It's just so perfect. And I love it so much. And every time I watch that scene, I get chills. It's so well done. Another one I really like is I like Anakin's Dark Deeds. The do 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 do.
Yeah.
That one is, it sounds like crying. And I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it other than that, but it literally sounds like somebody's crying, which is essentially like Anakin knowing what he's doing is wrong, but still feeling like he has no other choice. So he's crying his way through these terrible acts because he
Yeah.
thinks that there's no other option, that he has to do this or he's going to lose the love of his life. And so I love that track. Oh, it's so hard to watch, but like playing as Order 66 pans out, and then like even in the Clone Wars, they brought that back when Ahsoka gets attacked by all the clones and
Oh,
she
right.
fights them off, and then they start playing Anakin's Dark Deeds. I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'm emotional. I love that track. So
Yeah.
I love the incorporation of that. And then the character themes. So like
Yeah.
Qui Gon has a character theme. Leia has a character theme. Padme and Anakin have a theme. Obi Wan has a theme. Luke has a theme. Like I just love the idea of musical cues telling you everything that you need to know about a character. And I think John Williams really defined that for cinema, because character themes today are a lot bigger of a deal than say they would have been like in the 60s or 70s prior to Star Wars. So I really appreciate what John Williams has done as far as character themes for music. But like, and then there are others. There's like Duel of the Fates, which is a classic.
Yep.
You cannot go wrong with Duel of the Fates. And you know, I like what you said about the sequel trilogy. Like I felt like John Williams did the best that he could given the direction that he got for the sequel trilogy. But one track that's actually quite good in the sequel trilogy is the Jedi Steps, which
Which
is
was that?
it's the do 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 do
Oh,
do,
yeah.
right?
And I think Kylo Ren's theme is pretty good too.
It's
Dun, 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 dun. It's
it's
decent.
so
It's not. It's no.
dramatic.
It's no. Imperial March. Like I don't know how you're gonna beat that. But it is really good. The other one that's good too. I thought just deserves a shout out is the like the battle droid army theme. The
Yes.
dun 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 dun
Dun,
dun dun dun
dun.
dun dun, dun,
Yes.
which is
Oh my
actually
gosh.
funny because John Williams also, for those of you who don't know, wrote the theme for Sunday Night Football. So the dun 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 dun, dun, which sounds like Star Wars, but it's great. And I thought that was so cool that he had a hand in that too. It's like also what an iconic Sunday Night Football theme for you Americans who watch American football out there. It's an awesome theme. But I agree with you. The character themes are such an amazing part of an important part of what film is. And it brings to mind one of the best to ever do it when it comes to character themes, which is Howard Shore, who did Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
I actually took a class in college on it. We talked about like film scores and stuff, and we spent like a couple weeks on Lord of the Rings.
Oh, cool.
Um, and there's a website out there that you can go to that someone put together that we like studied that has like every single theme from every character in Lord of the Rings. Sorry, I know this isn't the Lord of the Rings show, but I got to go on.
No, it's
Talk
fine.
about it
I
for a
mean,
bit.
at any time you get a
So,
chance to talk about Lord of the Rings, go for it.
so with Gollum's theme, with the Rings theme, and then Aragorn's theme and all that stuff, and Frodo and the Shire theme, and how they intertwine together when the different characters are in the different scenes. It's like so perfectly done. Like it's insane the amount of effort this guy put into it for each theme and how he was able to mesh those themes together through each scene
Mm-hmm.
is super impressive. And I think John Williams also does very well. But that also brings up another point, which is the problem with the sequels. And there's an article out there that was written about how John Williams wrote all these things, but he didn't have creative control over where they're put in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So he writes them, and some of these themes ended up getting put in the wrong places, which is another reason why a lot of people felt like the movie felt disconnected. And I think even subliminally, that it's disconnected because they put Yoda's theme in a couple areas where it's like Yoda's not in the scene.
I
And they
was
just
just
put,
gonna say that sequence at the end of The Rise of Skywalker when they all reunite and it's like, oh, we defeated everybody. Yoda's theme comes over and you're like, why is this playing here?
yeah, it doesn't make sense. So I think honestly, like in my opinion, that is one of the I think top 10 reasons, in my opinion, why the sequels didn't hit in certain areas as well as they could have. You got to put the right music in the right places. It has such an effect on what you're feeling in the moment while you're watching the movie. But overall, John Williams is the GOAT. So I can't
John
wait to see
Williams is
it
the
for
man.
Obi-Wan. It'll be really interesting. I mean, this will be our first TV show with John Williams doing the
Oh
score for
man.
it. So
Oh, it's so exciting, the possibilities for Obi-Wan. And Matt, I think you just confirmed. I think we need to do an entire separate episode on John Williams, because you just like,
yeah,
I feel like you would have so much to talk about with it in particular, because you're so like into music. And for those who don't know, Matt likes making music. So we have
yes,
to make an entire episode dedicated to John Williams's brilliance in Star
yeah, for sure. I
Wars.
mean, literally, I used to make CDs with movie soundtracks on them when I was a kid. For those of you who remember, we used to burn CDs back in the day, and I would burn CDs, and they were just a total random like hodgepodge of stuff. But some of my CDs, I would just have movie soundtracks on them because I loved them so much. I'd have like Last of the Mohegans on there, Glory, which is an awesome movie, by the way. I'd
Very
have
good.
Lord of the Rings on there. I'd have Star Wars themes. I'd have Cantina Band. I'd have a bunch of other Star Wars themes on there. And I would just listen to them because I enjoyed it that much. Um, so yeah, we should definitely do a separate episode on it, and the influences that I talked about last time. The Planets by Gustav Holst, and a lot of these other influences that John Williams had, and how they play into the movies. And maybe we can do a deep dive on different scenes and why it's impactful. Because I love breaking that stuff down as well.
Perfect. I think Matt just gave us our next podcast episode. So there you go. Stay tuned for that, guys. Also we just went on a total tangent once again, but in relation to the Obi-Wan news, and John Williams and all that. So Jimmy Smits will be reprising his role as Senator Bail Organa in Obi Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a must do,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Because
for
he
sure.
did the voice in Clone Wars, right? He did the
No, that was Phil Lamar.
Oh, okay. Wow, you pulled that right out of your head.
I
Nice
look,
work.
listen to me. You could give me like a quiz of the Clone Wars and I could probably answer every question. Like, I
Wow.
love that show that much. So
It's a good show. Well, props to you for knowing that. That's impressive. But yeah, I mean, you got to have him in the show, right? Because he's actually kind of a big character in Revenge of the Sith, if you think about it. Like, he's obviously Leia's dad. Um, and
he's kind of the whole reason why Yoda and Obi-Wan were able to
yeah,
get away.
right, exactly. And he plays a big role, and he knows where Obi-Wan is. He knows they're trying to protect these kids. So that'll be a really interesting thing to see, is how Obi-Wan communicates with him while he's still trying to look over Luke and check in with him on how he's looking over Leia. So that'll be a really interesting character to have in the show. Believe it or not, those of you who aren't super into Star Wars, I think he'll add a very interesting dimension to the whole thing, and it opens up a lot of storylines that we could explore in this show. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I know I've talked about this a lot, but like, this show can go so many different directions. Um, and I don't think it's going to disappoint. And this is like more proof of them really making sure they do it right. Obviously having John Williams do the soundtrack for it, but then you got Senator Organa back in here too, another really interesting element. So amazing.
I have two trains of thought. The first train of thought is there was also a rumor that Princess Leia will be in this show as a little girl.
Really, that makes
And
sense.
that would tie in perfectly with the whole Bail thing. What happens if she gets in danger? Like, would Obi-Wan have to leave Tatooine and then go try to help her while still maintaining his cover? So if that ends up being true, that'll add another interesting angle to see Leia and Luke as 10-year-olds, and everybody's trying to protect them. And they're just like, la, 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 la. Like, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and that'll add such an interesting a dimension to A New Hope after the show. I guarantee you, it's going to make, and Ewan McGregor is going to do such a good job. He already does an amazing job of the mannerisms of Alec Guinness and the way he talks and the delivery of the lines. And I know he's not going to disappoint here. He's going to do an amazing job doing that. So I think it's going to add such interesting development to Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan. And so I'm going to go back and watch A New Hope after this and be like, oh, because when they're going to the Death Star or whatever, I mean, they're with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's like, oh, these two kids that like I've had to watch over for 20 something years,
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
we're going right into the belly of the beast.
It'll hit a lot harder
Oh
afterwards.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
there'll be so much weight, so much more emotion, because you'd be like, Obi-Wan literally gave up his entire life for the Skywalker twins after
Yeah.
Anakin completely destroyed his world. Another reason why Obi-Wan's my favorite character.
This shows, and that's one of the reasons why this show is so important. It's going to help bridge the gap so much between the prequels and the original trilogy. And that's like something that I think Bad Batch did a pretty good job of. Really did a nice job filling in some of those gaps of the transition between the Republic to the Empire. And I think this is going to do a really good job transitioning between, the Jedi Order being a thing and it not being a thing where Jedi are hunted down, and
Mhm.
his relationship with these people. And it's going to really, mesh those two storylines together super nicely. So it'll be a really fun watch in that regard.
For sure. I'm also I can't help but laugh a little bit. It's like, so prior to the sequels, like a lot of people just were constantly hating on the prequel trilogy, like giving it a lot of smack, and they're like, "Oh, the sequel trilogy is going to come in and fix Star Wars and make it great again or whatever." Well, we all know how that turned out. But what's funny to me about this is that the prequels today are thriving. Like, they could not be more popular, and they're more popular now than they were, what, like 20 something years ago when they first
20
came
years,
out?
22 years ago, yeah. 99, I
Right.
think, when Phantom Menace came out.
I think it's so, like, ironic and hysterical, to quote Palpatine, ironic. But it's so funny to me that the prequels are like, they are the face of Star Wars right now. And I love it. And I'm here for it. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
everyone's pumped about this show about a prequel character in the prequel era with all the prequel tie-ins. It's like, I'm living, man.
Well,
And
yeah,
I just
because
had
that's
to say
our
that.
generation, dude. That's what we grew up with. Like, I remember when Phantom Menace came out. I remember the hype behind it. I was so stoked. It's weird because Star Wars had such an impact, and it had such an impact even in the '90s. Like a movie one of those movies hadn't been made in 10 years. And I mean, when did Return of the Jedi come out? 80?
77?
No, no, no.
No,
Return of the
no,
Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, 83.
83. That's what I thought. So when I was a kid, you'd go to Target or you go to Kmart, and there'd be Star Wars characters and like niche Star Wars characters, like weird, weird Star Wars characters that I'd never heard of. And we just wanted to buy as many as we could, which, by the way, I don't know if they're at home somewhere. I don't know what happened to those Star Wars characters. I
They're in a
looked for
box.
them. I know, but where? I've looked, Melissa, for like hours trying to find my old Star Wars guys. I could not find them. We had so many good ones. I hope to God no one threw them away. I found my Batman guys, which fine, but I really care about my Star Wars guys. Um, and it's just crazy to me. Like, I think about that. A movie that hasn't been out in 10 plus years, like this is the '90s at that point, is still crushing it on merch, still selling, you know? And so it had that influence on me. But then when the prequels came out, like episode one had a ton of hype. I remember seeing it after it came out in video. Dad wouldn't let me go to the theater to watch it for some reason. I mean, I was 7, but still. Um, and I loved it. And I was like, why does no one like this movie? Like, yeah, Jar Jar Binks sucks. And I remember being a kid and thinking he stinks. But I was like, this is Darth Maul's so cool. Like, this is amazing. And then like Attack of the Clones came out. It's like, oh, we get to see Yoda fight. We get Count Dooku. We get to see Anakin fighting with double-handed lightsabers. Like he has 2 lightsabers. Like Obi Wan young, like fighting, like mentoring. Like this is awesome. And I always liked him. And then Revenge of the Sith I thought was amazing, and it still holds up today. And that was millennials. Like that's what we grew up. That's why everyone's so excited. Is like, okay, now we get to kind of see more development in this story.
Completely well said. But it's just, it's a good feeling to look back and think the reason that Star Wars, I think, has so much success today is because of what the prequels set up with the Jedi, with the Sith. I think the Clone Wars really, really gave Star Wars the good content it needed to make all these spin-off shows, and then throw characters in like Cad Bane or maybe Hondo or something. So it's like very fulfilling to me as a fan of the franchise to see all of this come to beautiful fruition, and to
Yeah.
feel like I'm so paid off as a fan, where it's like these characters that you've loved in the midst of when they were like getting hated on, without good reason, I think. And then to see them come back and like make a triumphant return, and we get all these stories about them, it just feels really, really, really good. And I'm so hyped up about the
Yeah.
future of Star Wars right now because of that.
Yeah, imagine where we would have gone if George Lucas still had complete creative control. Like I'd be really interested to see what George Lucas would have done with the sequels. Like I really wish, because he brought something totally new to the table with the prequels. It's all original ideas, like him or hate him. Um, it's super creative what he did with the prequels compared to the originals. They're so different from one another, and he did such a good job of like expanding that world. And some of it was a miss, like Jar Jar Binks is a miss, but like
Mhm.
I don't care. He gave some like Darth Maul, amazing villain. I mean, he killed him off too early, in my opinion. Thankfully, Dave Filoni and others are like, well, let's bring him back. He's too cool to just let go. So I think it would have been in another universe, somewhere, in a multiverse somewhere. George Lucas kept creative control, and there's another Star Wars trilogy out there that probably is a little bit better than the current sequels that we have.
Yeah. And I honestly think that the problem that a lot of people had with the prequels is not the same issue with the sequels. Like, I think those are two entirely different topics that we could delve in onto a separate podcast. I don't know. I digress. I'm not going to get into this right now because this could be an entire podcast episode on the differences between the prequels and the sequels, but we're not going to get into that right now. But I think it's fair to say that you and I are both hyped about Kenobi. The one thing I do want to ask you about is I have seen little to no talk about the potential of Qui Gon being in this show at all. Like, I've seen nobody talking about this, which I think is so weird, given that in Revenge of the Sith, we get that line from Yoda to Obi Wan, and he's like, I've been talking to Qui Gon. I'm going to teach you how to commune with him. So my question for you is do you think that Qui Gon is going to have a prominent role, if any role, in this show? And if so, do you think that's something that they would keep on the down low and then have it be a huge surprise?
Yeah, I 100% think he's going to show up. I mean, he was in Clone Wars, He voiced Clone Wars. If they didn't approach him, it's an idiotic move, and I don't think they're that stupid. I think they would definitely approach him about being quiet. He said a while ago, I'm pretty sure Liam Neeson was like, "No, I haven't been approached about it," but that was a while ago. I think that was probably 6 months ago at least, maybe 8 months ago, something like that. So I think he said something about it. Maybe that's why people aren't talking about it. He said he wasn't approached, but I think it would be something you'd want to keep on the extreme down low, just like maybe not on the scale of Luke, but we know how careful Disney is with this stuff, which is good. I mean, I think having him be a Force ghost or at least a Force voice, because Qui-Gon isn't able to like materialize himself, right? As a Force ghost.
Yeah. If you watch the Clone Wars arc.
Yeah, but having his voice in there, I think talking with Obi-Wan is like a mentor still, as Obi-Wan's going through this really difficult period of time. Again, super interesting element that I think he will. I really do. I have faith. My faith in Disney's direction of Star Wars is slowly getting restored. So I am hopeful that it will happen, and I think they will do it. If I had to bet on it, I would say, yeah, we'll see him.
Yeah, I
Or
think
hear him.
honestly, it's a huge miss if they don't, because they have that story element. Like, I own the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. It's by Matthew Stover, and in that book, and even further to that, like in a deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith, it's like there's this whole sequence with Qui-Gon and Yoda communing through the Force. Now they cut it out of Revenge of the Sith, but I think you can find that deleted scene online.
Yeah,
and
you can.
And then in the book, it's still very prominent and there. And so I feel like if you bring Obi-Wan and you give him his own show and you don't address that story thread that was brought up in Revenge of the Sith, I don't think that would sit well with people. I also think it would be a missed opportunity. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really hopeful that they'll do it. And like, come on, it's Liam freaking Neeson. He was perfect as Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and I don't think he would say no. I
No.
think he would 100% say yes. So
Well, here's the other thing too. Maybe not my best example, but Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home, like, literally told the media flat out, I'm not in this movie. I'm not in this movie. And then Tobey Maguire just refused to comment on his involvement with No Way Home. And then we're like, oh man, maybe they're not really in it. Then you go to the theater and lo and behold, Toby and Andrew are in the movie. So I'm like, maybe at this point, Disney's like, we don't care. Just lie. Do anything that you have to do to cover this up and make it look like you're not involved.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good at keeping these things a secret too. I mean, look how good of a secret they kept Luke. Like, no one knew that. Nobody. I theorized on this though. If you go back to, we didn't record conversations back then. I'm so bummed that we didn't do a breakdown series of Mando season 2. But when I would call it, we would talk on the phone. I'm like, Melissa, it's Luke. I'm 100. It has to be Luke. It doesn't make sense. Like, if they don't do Luke, it's gonna ruin the show for me, because that's how good of a decision it would be to bring him in. It's so perfectly set up, and it's the same thing here with Qui-Gon. and they're good at keeping secrets like that. But with No Way Home, I mean, it just seems like they didn't have enough tight lips involved with that, and it was just kind of leaked. Like everyone knew, all right, you're doing something with multi dimensions, and you're not going to
Yeah.
bring another Spider-Man, especially after seeing the success of Into the Spider-Verse, and like, like you're going to do it. And like one of my friends, he's actually he's Tom Holland's agent, and I brought up, I was like, oh, I'm kind of excited to see the new movie. Like, I'm hoping that they'll bring back like Toby and Andrew, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, no, shut up, don't ruin it, like stop. But I knew by his reaction, I'm like, dang it, that gives it away. I was like, don't tell me anything, dude. But I do think if he did come back, we would really be careful about it. So I think
Honestly, like the
that's
point,
super likely.
Disney, I don't know how Luke didn't leak. And yeah, I know that like Toby and Andrew leaked because somebody posted that picture on the internet. But like, I also think it's like they had like Willem Dafoe in a blanket, like coming on set. Like I just watched an interview with Willem Dafoe. He's like, yeah, like before they decided to put them in the trailer. So like we have to put these guys in like blankets and stuff. And then we have to put like these shields up in the cars so nobody can see. And so I'm hoping it's just a massive throw them off the scent thing.
Yeah.
Or like in the case of like Qui Gon, all they would really need is his voice. So I don't really know how that would leak unless they decided to be like, oh, Qui Gon figured out how to be a Force ghost or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if you bring Qui Gon in. I only think that makes the show better. I'm 110% here for it. Disney, please do this.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to hide too, since he's not necessarily. If he's just going to be a voice, you don't have to bring him on set for that. He can record from his home or just go to a studio. So it's way easier to hide and way harder to leak. So, yeah, I agree with you.
A lot of expectations for the Kenobi show, but I do have faith. I think they're going to do a great job.
One more quick thing: did you see the news that came out today? The rumor mill on Twitter.
No.
All right. So what I read, this came out a couple hours ago from Star Wars stuff on Twitter, if you guys follow them. But apparently, Darth Vader and Obi Wan Kenobi will reportedly fight twice in the Obi Wan Kenobi show.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
maybe we'll get another Battle of the Heroes kind of soundtrack to that.
Yeah,
maybe?
I mean, two-time battle. God, that would like one is great, but two.
Dude, I feel like this show is going to be Obi-Wan trying to deal with his trauma and depression over losing his best friend and then having to face his best friend twice. Like this poor guy should be called Obi-Wan Kenobi's PTSD.
I know, no kidding, dude.
Oh, I'm gonna feel so bad for him. He's like my all-time favorite Star Wars character because he's just so good. Like throughout every bad thing that happens to him, he's still like such a good person, and I just love that. And that's like the epitome of all like character tropes for me. But oh man, two battles. Oh, the emotions will be flying high.
I know. Oof, can't wait. So stoked for this. Can't wait to break this one down.
I could talk about Kenobi all day. Last thing, Clone Wars flashbacks. I hope they give us like
It will 100%. They kind of gave that away because they said we're going to see Obi-Wan and Anakin back together, not Obi-Wan and Darth, but Hayden Christensen specifically, or Ewan McGregor specifically said like it's nice to work with Hayden as Anakin again. So I think Clone Wars flashbacks are inevitable.
Oh God. I don't know what I'm going to do. When we watch these episodes, I'm going to be like screaming left and right that I won't be paying attention to the episode. Okay. We can talk about AHSOKA briefly, but in case you did not hear about AHSOKA on Twitter, it looks like AHSOKA will start filming in April. That's a rumor. And it looks like the working title of the show is Stormcrow. Does that sound familiar?
You have no power here, Gandalf Stormcrow.
There it is.
Of course I know what that is.
That's just Filoni being Filoni. That makes, if that's not true, I that's the most Dave Filoni thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
So for people who don't know, when they do highly anticipated projects, movies, TV shows, that kind of thing, and they don't want people on set like necessarily wise to it, or they don't want people who may be seeing them film somewhere outside of the studio, they don't want to alert people to that it's like a Star Wars thing and create a lot of buzz. They will create fake names for the working title of a TV show to throw people off the scent. So like for Mandalorian, I don't remember what it was. Mandalorian.
Star Wars Rebels also had one too.
Huckleberry is what Mandalorian was called. So they do this so that things don't leak as much. It is to keep things kind of secret, but I guess the cat's out of the bag with this one, Stormcrow. So if I'm walking around LA and I see Stormcrow anywhere, I'm gonna be like, oh, Ahsoka. But that's cool. That's awesome. That's classic Filoni callback to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and Ahsoka's basically Space Gandalf, so
she is.
Other Ahsoka news is Thrawn will be the main villain, which is not a surprise at all for anybody who's seen Rebels. I feel like the entire premise of that show is going to be Thrawn, Ahsoka, and Luke, and then Ahsoka and Sabine going off to find Ezra. Now, all they have to do is add Tamora Morrison to that cast as Captain Rex, and it'll be good to go, because I'm slightly panicking that there hasn't been an announcement there yet. And so please just add him.
Yeah, I don't think they need to announce that. I mean, he'll show up at some point. Let's be real.
They have to. You know that meme? It's like no fear, and then it's like one fear. Captain Rex not being in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about that right now. Anyway, and then the final bit of news that I saw is that Ray Stevenson has joined the cast of Ahsoka. And for those who don't know, he actually played Gar Saxon on both Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars. So he's like the big, beefy guy with the shaved head, and he's got his mop of hair in the middle. He's kind of hard to miss, and he's got that super cool Darth Maul-esque looking helmet, you know, when they're doing the Siege of Mandalore. So that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know if is Gar Saxon dead? I don't remember. I haven't watched Rebels in a while. Maybe he's not playing Gar Saxon. I don't know, but he played Gar Saxon in both the Clone Wars and Rebels, so we'll have to see. I don't know if he's going to be playing that character or somebody else, so we're going to have to see. But it looks like,
I have to say, I am a little nervous about the Ahsoka show.
Yeah, me too.
Just after seeing Book of Boba Fett, and some of the character development or lack thereof with Boba, I'm a little nervous with Ahsoka. I'm sure there'll be some really good Star Wars in there, but are they going to have different directors for every episode? I'm not sure I'm sold on this different director for every episode thing now after Book of Boba Fett. It worked really well for Mando Season 2. Mando Season 1, kind of. You could really tell a difference between who directed what in the first season. The second season, I felt a little bit more fluid, and the whole storyline was really well fleshed out, so it was kind of hard to screw up, I thought. But I am definitely a little nervous to see how the Ahsoka one plays out.
I mean, it started off as an animated show. I don't know if you know that, but it started off in pre-production as an animated follow-up to Star Wars Rebels. And then apparently, from what I heard, Jon Favreau came in and spoke to Dave, and he was like, look, you should do this and make it live action, because Dave's still, dipping his toes into the water of live action directing. And I'm a little bit bummed about that, just because, like obviously, like, I love animation at the end of the day, but I feel like it almost allows you to do more. And I really wanted to see Ahsoka's journey continued in animation, but with the direction that they started to take Mando, with like Ahsoka's path starting to cross with like Grogu, I guess they wanted to keep that audience involved and emotionally invested, which is why they chose to transfer it to live action. So I'm a little disappointed on that end. Also, I'm just really, really nervous because, like, from what I've seen of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, it's like good, but I haven't seen enough from you to be convinced that, like, you could carry a whole show and like the emotional range of this particular character. And so I just don't think I have enough to base an entire series of Ahsoka off of with her. And so I think a lot of my reservations are just like, oh my God, like, this character means so much to me. And to have a totally different actress portraying her and her mannerisms has me pretty apprehensive, because I'm afraid of that disconnect. But also what you said with like the writing, I'm assuming it's going to be all Dave and John. I don't think it's going to be a multi-director show. In fact, that would be really weird to me if it was, especially because Ahsoka is like Dave Filoni's baby that he had with George Lucas. So like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of like, the scales are like tipping right now. It's like, excited, yes. Nerves are kind of outweighing excitement. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's also like, it's so different because it's obviously not the same exact character, like you mentioned, from animation, and it was already kind of screwed up in my opinion with Boba. Like Boba was awesome in Mando season 2, and I thought it was going to be the exact same type of character. He didn't feel like the same character from season 2 of Mando to his own show. He felt totally different, and that's what I'm a little nervous about. But
Well,
we'll see. I'm going into it with an open mind. I want to like it. I'm going to all this stuff wanting to really like it, and I'm sure there'll be some really cool Star Wars moments in it nonetheless. So I guess we'll just have to hold our breath and wait. But until then, at least we have Kenobi coming out, and that's what I'm mainly focused on.
right. I'm just afraid it's like I don't want to be disappointed, especially because like I felt the same way like going into the sequel trilogy, you wanting to like it, and then you come out and you're like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And Boba Fett kind of left me feeling the same way. So I definitely feel your apprehensions when going into Ahsoka, because that's honestly a character that I would be so upset if that got if I felt like it didn't meet its potential. That would actually really upset me, especially because like I grew up loving Ahsoka and I love Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka, and I think she's a wonderful actress. And I have that attachment to the animated character. And so when you switch it to live action, my apprehension is like, is this going to feel like the same person? Am I still
Yeah.
going to believe that this is the same world and the connections have been the same? And again, I haven't seen enough of Rosario Dawson. So I mean, we're going to have to see. I'm always crossing my fingers, but I'm going to like push that to the way future and just focus on Kenobi.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
One more talking point for today is Knights of the Old Republic. And to give you the Spark Notes version, Knights of the Old Republic, or at least I think like the game has been around since 2003, roughly, I think. So it's been around for a really long time. And it's a role player game where you can like basically put yourself in the Star Wars universe as like a Jedi and fight the Sith. Now there have been like a lot of spin-off games of this, so there are so many different gameplays that you can get into, which is like Legacy of the Sith, which is like the newest one that came out. I have a very basic knowledge of Knights of the Old Republic, so I've watched people do gameplays and stayed up late nights on YouTube just listening to the soundtracks. But the main thing being with the Old Republic is their cinematic trailers. And they just released a cinematic trailer 2 or 3 days ago. And it's what was it called? Oh, right. So the newest Knights of the Old Republic trailer that just came out was called Disorder. And if you guys have not seen these, I highly recommend that you go to YouTube and you just look up Knights of the Old Republic cinematic trailers and you check them out, because oh my God, like the animation in these little 6-minute shorts to promote the stories, the little mini gameplays they do, they're absolutely incredible. I think the first one came out in 2009. So like 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and they've been like pumping these out, and they have some incredible animation and effects, and they do a great job at selling the game. And I actually thought they were done making them, according to an announcement, I think a couple of years ago, that they were like, oh, we're done with the cinematic trailers, but it turns out they aren't. And the most recent one is a testament to their skills in promoting their product, because holy cow, it was amazing. Matt, I know that you haven't really taken a deep dive into that area of Star Wars, or if you know anything about it.
No, I played it a little bit when I was in like 2003 when it came out on the computer. I think I illegally downloaded it online. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I remember it's a fun game. I haven't watched the trailer yet, so I'll have to do some kind of reaction video or something. I mean, I'm excited. Any kind of new Star Wars game, I'm going to play it, which means I need to get a new Xbox because mine is broken. But that'll be tough considering I'm planning a wedding right now and money is tight. But I might have to scrounge up some money together just to buy an Xbox to play that game.
They're actually remaking the game, I think, for PlayStation 5. I think there was a trailer that came out last year, and they're I think it was focused on Darth Revan.
Yeah.
So they're remaking that game, so I'm really excited to see what they do with that. And actually, I don't know if you know this, Matt, but in deleted scenes of the Clone Wars, Darth Revan was going to appear like in the Clone Wars as a character in a Force vision to the sun in the Mortis arc of Clone Wars.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
a really cool arc too. If you guys are new to Clone Wars, that's a really good arc to watch. Someone in our comments, I don't remember who it was, but someone was like, "I've never watched the Clone Wars." I'm like, "Dude, you got to do it." You should make a video actually about which Clone Wars videos to watch or start with if you haven't watched them yet, because it helps fill in a lot of gaps and makes some of this content that you're seeing, the new stuff that you're seeing, make a lot more sense. Like if you didn't watch the Clone Wars and then you weren't familiar with who Ahsoka is, it probably didn't make that big of a deal for you. But
Hmm.
if you watch those, it'll still like it makes a whole lot more sense as to why it was such a big unveiling. So just as a general point, go watch Clone Wars if you haven't, and maybe we should put a video together of like where to start with that and what are some of the best arcs to watch, which episodes.
Yeah, definitely. But it is cool to see that Old Republic stuff is still running as popular as the day it started. I really don't know why that. I don't know why Disney hasn't taken that concept and turned it into like, or at least conceptualized a TV series or maybe like a series of movies, because people clearly love it. Like
Yeah.
people like the stories, they like the characters. And so I'm going to be surprised if in like 5 or 6 years we don't have an announcement of some kind of story focusing on the Old Republic, because it's just so popular. I mean, like the game came out in 2003 and it's still doing numbers today. That's insane. But yes, Matt, you're going to have to definitely do reaction videos to these cinematic trailers because they're so good, and I can send you the order in which to watch them. But if you guys have not checked those out, I highly recommend them. They're very entertaining and they're just
Those
fun.
were just trailers for the fun of it.
They're trailers to promote like the gameplay, so like the stories that you can, the different
Oh,
story paths
with
that
the
you
new
can
game
choose
that's
from.
coming out in like 2023 or whatever.
No, for like the current game, there's so much, Matt, there's so much with like the Old Republic. There's been like so many different like stories that you can follow, and there's been like quite a few different games. And so if somebody is listening to this who really likes the Old Republic and I'm botching this information, I'm so sorry. I have a basic knowledge of this, but the cinematic trailers are basically there to just kind of like promote the stories that you can play.
Okay.
But they're so good. Like they're so good.
Yeah, maybe when I get my if I get another Xbox, I'll play some of those old games and do some live streaming or something.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, with that being said, we have talked about Obi Wan, Ahsoka, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, that's like 3 notches in the belt of Star Wars of like 20.
Yeah.
So, no shortage of content to talk about. And I'm sure as soon as I post this episode on YouTube and Spotify, there's going to be even more news. And I'll be like, oh my God, we didn't talk about that. But it's going to be an exciting few weeks. Now, all I need is the announcement to Bad Batch Season 2, and I'll be good to go.
Yeah, same. Keep the Star Wars content coming.
Keep it coming, Disney. Keep it coming. So I think that's all we have for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the notification bell. Check out our other videos. You can still check out our last episode of Book of Boba breakdown on our YouTube. So if you guys want to check that out, that is still there for you to view. We've got quite a few other videos coming. We just got to get those recording times in, so stay tuned for those. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know when our next breakdown series is going to be, so we're just going to have some content here and there and in between, and we hope you guys enjoy it. But until then, we'll see you later, and may the force be with you.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. Looks like we'll have to do the Clone Wars stuff, and we'll do some John Williams breakdown as well. So we'll do some videos like that, and then we have some other stuff coming. If there's anything specific you want to see from us, let us know in the comments. But yeah, let's just put it nicely. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out, guys.